What's up, Raptors fans? Welcome to the Warriors Report. The Raptors finish up their last preseason game against the Washington Wizards. It's time to focus our attention on who will be making the Raptors roster. Now, the Raptors did have 3 roster spots open up until a few days ago when they picked up Yuta Watanabe's contract option, meaning he is on the roster, and we now have 2 roster spots open. So for today's video, I will be discussing some of the players that could crack the Raptors' last few spots. I'll discuss a little bit about their preseason statistics. I'm going to break down their games, of how they performed in the preseason, and ultimately give you my prediction of who I think will make the 2 roster spots. So before we get into the details of this video, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. It does help reach more basketball fans like yourself. And if you want to hit the subscribe button as well, that'd be absolutely amazing. I also do give out shoutouts to random subscribers. So for today's video, the shoutout goes to, unfortunately, I am not able to pronounce your name as it looks like it's written in Japanese, and I believe you said you were from Japan. So arigato gozaimasu. Thank you so much for your support of this channel, to your likes and comments. I'm a big fan of Japanese culture, so thank you so much once again. And with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, when we talk about the Raptors roster and who will make the roster, we first have to discuss who already is on the Raptors roster, including the guaranteed contract. So as you see on the left-handed side there, where's this player, starting from Pascal Siakam all the way to Malachi Flynn, all of those players in that little row there are guaranteed contracts. And of course, as I talked about, Yuta Watanabe also had his contract picked up by the Raptors, as well as Svi Mykhailiuk, who signed a 2-year contract, so his contract is guaranteed, as well as Delano Banton, who also signed a 2-year deal with the Raptors after being drafted. Now, I want you to focus your attention on the right-hand side where it says signed using. So in NBA, teams are allowed 15 players and 2 additional two-way contracts. So as you see there at the bottom of the screen, Justin Champagnie and David Johnson are signed to 2-way contracts, meaning the Raptors can have a roster of 15 players, and we already have 2 players under two-way contracts. So that leaves us with 2 roster spots open and 5 players fighting for it. So let's break down some of their games and how they performed in the preseason. And let's start with Freddie Gillespie. Now, Freddie Gillespie, who's played 5 games this preseason, has not looked great at all. He's looked terrible. He looks like a completely different player from the player we saw last season with the Raptors and the player we're seeing in preseason and even summer league. He has not looked like himself. He seems really unfocused, or every time the ball gets passed to him, it seems like he kind of loses the ball. And he just seems a little bit slow reacting to getting the ball. And just generally speaking, when you see his offense, his defense, he seems like he's just not focused in the game. He's a little bit slow-footed as well. Perhaps it was just us being really low on Aaron Baines, and maybe Freddie Gillespie just blew us off last season. But I do believe that Freddie Gillespie has not been performing well in the preseason, as evident by the statistics there. His points per game, 1 point per game, is terrible. I know he doesn't necessarily take a lot of shots. As you see, his field goal percentage isn't great as well. 33.3% from your big man is not good. Although he's only taking 6 shots in 5 games played, I understand it. But even his rebounds, his blocks, again, he's played 7 minutes per game, so it's not a lot, but statistical wise, he hasn't looked great. But just speaking of his game in general, he has not looked good with the Raptors. He seems unfocused. He just seems like he does not want to be there. So let's move on to our next player here, and that is Reggie Perry, who is also fighting for one of the last 2 roster spots. So Reggie Perry has appeared in 2 games with the Raptors. He's played 6.5 minutes. His points per game isn't bad, 4 points per game. Only 1 rebound a game isn't the greatest, and he's averaged 0 blocks per game. So as you see there, again, his field goal percentage isn't the greatest. He's listed as a power forward center, and that's not what you want to see. Again, this is preseason, limited minutes, I understand that, but it's still a sample we can use, and that is how coaches evaluate who will make the roster. So when you take a look at his stats at the bottom, his field goal percentage is terrible, 25%. And again, it is only 4 shots, so if he had made 1 more, it would have gone from 25 to 50, but the coaches see a lot more than we do, right? So we obviously can say he's played limited minutes, but Nick Nurse definitely sees these guys in practice, and he gives minutes based off of that as well. So Reggie Perry, he's looked okay. He hasn't really, again, I haven't really seen enough of Reggie Perry in preseason to talk very highly or criticize his game, but he hasn't really stood out to me, personally speaking, during the 2 preseason games he's appeared in. And let's talk about Izak Bonga, who has appeared in all 5 preseason games for the Raptors. Now, he has played 8.2 minutes per game. Again, his statistics don't necessarily jump out at you. He's not really someone who's going to fill up the stat sheets. 1.8 points per game, 1.8 rebounds per game. assists, 1.6 assists per game. And again, it is a small size sample. 57.1% from the field isn't too bad. What's really impressed me about Izak Bonga when you talk about preseason action is he's not really looking for his own stats. He doesn't necessarily play selfish. Again, his stats don't jump out at you, but that's also because he's more focused on filling his role, and he knows his role well, which is to be a defender, get the ball to the main guys on offense, and just set screens and get those rebounds. So I think he's impressed me a little bit. Again, it's hard to say because it is limited minutes we've seen him in, but he's looked decent in the limited minutes he has played. He really looks like he's playing good defense. His length has been absolutely amazing, and that really stood out to me, is how he's able to get those rebounds. And when he plays on defense, he's not the fastest of players, but he did catch my eye in a few games that I saw him play. So let's move on to our next player here, and that is Sam Dekker, who had himself an absolute phenomenal game against the Wizards, where I believe he ended with 18 points, and I think he scored about 15 or 16 points in about 8 minutes, and they were double teaming and triple teaming him. And this is preseason, and this is someone who's fighting for a roster spot. So it was funny to see Sam Dekker just going off, and then Washington Wizards were doing everything to get the ball out of his hands. But Sam Dekker was absolutely lighting it up with against the Wizards. He was hitting everything. He even had a 4-point play, so it's great to see him shoot out there. Now, obviously, in the Turkish league, he has shot the 3-point ball impressively. In the 4 games with the Raptors, again, he's played in limited minutes besides this Washington Wizards game, and his stats obviously got a little bit of a boost by having himself a tremendous game against the Wizards. But when you take a look at the percentages, their 62.5% is really good, and again, a big part of that is because of the game he had against the Wizards, and field goal percentage is pretty good as well, 56.2%. And I'm not going to lie, Sam Dekker has looked pretty much invisible this entire preseason, except for the game in the Wizards, and he looked absolutely amazing. I like his shot. His shot looks absolutely smooth when he releases it, and he looks like he's just in the right places sometimes. So it doesn't hurt to have, 6'8", 6'9" guys who are able to shoot the ball. So I was really impressed by Sam Dekker in today's game. And let's move on to our last player, who everyone, it seems like he's a fan favorite during my live streams. Everyone's talking about him. Everyone wants him in the game the entire time. He's appeared. Ishmael Wainwright has appeared in 3 games with the Raptors, 11 minutes, 4.3 points, 3 rebounds. Again, it is limited minutes, but it's still impressive when you see him play out there. He's one of those players. He's not going to try to force his stats, but he knows to play the role well. And of course, he's obviously gotten comparisons to PJ Tucker. So when you look at the 3-point percentage there, he's 4 of 8 from the 3, 50%. His field goal percentage is okay, but he's only taken 1 shot outside of the 3-point shot. So most of his shots, majority of his shots have come at the 3-point shot, but that's his role. His role is very similar to, like we've touched upon, many YouTubers, including myself, have touched upon how his role is very similar to PJ Tucker, which is really gritty, hard defense. He's a tough player who's obviously a former football player and just 3-and-D guy if you want to list him. You can play him at the power forward position, certain matchups, but regardless, it's still fun to see Ishmael Wainwright out there. He brings a lot of energy, toughness to the Raptors. He can obviously rebound. He's a really strong dude, of course, and he can really body other players that may be even bigger than him. So it's great to see Ishmael Wainwright. He's definitely a fan favorite. Now, with that being said, guys, we've talked about the performances of each individual players in the preseason. Let's go and talk about who I think will crack the Raptors roster spots. Now, obviously, we have 5 players here. 2 players will make the Raptors roster. So I'm going to go player by player, and I'm going to eliminate. I'm going to do elimination game here. I'm going to go player by player, and I'm going to eliminate 1 player at a time and why I think they won't make the Raptors roster. So the first player, of course, Freddie Gillespie, as I talked about, he has not looked impressive at all during the preseason. It's very likely that the Raptors will cut him and maybe sign him to a contract to the Raptors 905, their G League. So I don't see Freddie Gillespie making the Raptors roster in any way, shape, or form. I just don't see that happening. It'd be really surprising if he somehow did manage. But Freddie Gillespie, he rightfully doesn't deserve to be in the last 2 roster spots. I think it's fair to say almost all of the players listed here have outperformed him, despite him getting a lot of minutes as well. So moving on here, another player who I believe should not be cracking the Raptors roster spot is Reggie Perry. Again, he hasn't gotten enough minutes, but he hasn't really impressed me. He hasn't really stood out. There's nothing that's really impressed me out there. And I think out of the remaining players, it's fair to say all of these 3 players listed that are still here. Sam Dekker, Izak Bonga, Ishmael, Wainwright have looked a lot more impressive than Reggie Perry. So 3 players remaining. I'm going to eliminate 1 player here, and I'm going to tell you who is going to make the Raptors roster spot. So unfortunately, as much as I like Sam Dekker, I just don't see him making the Raptors roster spot, just because when you talk about his 3-point shooting is absolutely phenomenal. Yes, we definitely do need his 3-point shooting. We know that we have a lot of great defenders, but we don't have a lot of shooting on this team, which is something we need, especially from our bench. And once you go deeper into the bench, I think you definitely need guys like Sam Dekker to shoot. Unfortunately, he did have himself a really good game against the Washington Wizards, but outside of that, he didn't really show much. In the limited minutes he played, he wasn't really visible out there. He didn't stand out, and ultimately, I think Izak Bonga definitely outperformed Sam Dekker. He has looked very impressive in the limited minutes. His length is impressive, and obviously he is a very young player, I think, which the Raptors will definitely take into consideration when they talk about, who will make the Raptors roster. Now, again, it's ironic I say that because Ishmael Wainwright is also making the Raptors roster, and he is 27 years old, but Ishmael Wainwright, I'm not saying he's a great 3-point shooter like Sam Dekker. Obviously, Sam Dekker is a better 3-point shooter than Ishmael, but I think if the Raptors do decide to keep Ishmael Wainwright, I just don't see them keeping Sam Dekker because we know Nick Nurse loves his defense, and I just think Izak Bonga is really going to thrive in the Raptors system. Again, this is a hard decision for the Raptors. We will have to see who makes the 2 roster spots, but I do want to hear from you guys. Who do you think should make the 2 roster spots? I want to hear from you guys. Do you think Sam Dekker deserves to? Do you think Izak Bonga deserves to, or do you think someone else deserves to? Let me know in the comment section below. And as promised, guys, I do leave you guys with a bonus clip. So in honor of OG Anunoby, who's had a really good preseason, I'm going to leave you with his artistic skills here. So thank you guys for watching this video, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.